guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? I've had a kind of a weird week of shows. It's been so hot. I feel like everybody gets a little weird when it's hot. It's been like 105. It's supposed to be like 107 today in Fresno. We had such a nice summer up until this week. It was going so well. And the wheels all just fell off. I did this show. There's this place not too far from Fresno. It's kind of up in the mountains called Bass Lake. And fun fact about Bass Lake, my parents' boat sank there when I was a child. So I guess I was doing a show up there to get revenge. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's this really cool venue. It's this it's right on the marina for this lake, and the actual stage itself was kind of like in the corner of it, and so like behind the stage was just boats and open water, you know. And there was this big sign with these giant letters, these like 8-foot tall letters that said like Bass Lake. They were like cut out, made of wood. It was neat. It was a really cool venue. And I remember the booker at one point, he like pulled like all the comics aside and he was like, "Hey, look, listen, I don't know if this is going to happen this week. Last week there was this big, like right in the middle of the show, there was this big party boat full of Australians that like came in and they were all really drunk and they kind of were like stumbling off the boat and it may not even happen this week, but just prepare you and you know, it could happen at some point during the show." And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And so the show starts and the host goes up and I mean, it doesn't really get much. Just nobody's really like tuned in and paying attention. It's also an open air venue, which is really a tough environment for comedy. I mean, comedians, we like a nice, like dark, low ceiling and, you know, real intimate. And this place is open air. The nearest audience member is 20 feet away from you, sitting in a plastic chair, you know, and just getting drunk off of mimosas or whatever they drink in Bass Lake. I think they didn't have a liquor license. All they could do was like beer and wine. So it was like IPAs, I guess. Anyway, whatever. The host goes up. That doesn't get much. The first comic goes up. He does a little better. The audience is starting to like tune in. Third guy goes up. Actually does really, really well. And I'm featuring and I'm going up after him and I'm like, all right, cool. These guys are warm. These guys are you know, into it. I'm going to go up. I think it's going to go great. And they call me up. The host kind of goofs just a little bit on my name and it's fine. It was just kind of a weird energy to come up to. And then I'm in the set, but now the audience is starting to get kind of drunk. And there's these two ladies in particular that are very drunk and they're heckling. It's not like malicious, but they're kind of like chiming in. They're kind of like stepping on bits. So, and then I'm having to like engage them, which is fine. It's part of the job. I deal with that all the time. But either way, the set's becoming more challenging than I was hoping it would be. And I'm doing like 20 minutes and I'm finally getting them over. I'm like, you know, I'm going back and forth with these ladies and we're having fun with it. And I'm really starting to like win them over. I'm like 10 minutes into my set. And then the PA system just dies. Like it's just like turns into a brick. This microphone doesn't work. These speakers don't work. And then it's like chaos. Then the booker runs up on stage to work on the sound system. The owner's up there. The host is up there. They're all trying to figure out what's going on. I'm standing there holding like this dead microphone, and I can get real loud. I was like, fuck it. We're just gonna do the rest of this set a cappella. And the crowd actually found that pretty endearing. I mean, it was they were really. I mean, it was cool that they were impressed. I would have rather had just a fun set where, you know, the mic worked and everybody laughed. But I think that kind of won them over, that I was able to kind of soldier through. So I was proud of myself in that moment. Still wasn't great, but it could have been way worse. Thankfully, I've had to deal with that situation before. But anyway, the host finally, like at one point, he's like, "We got the mic working," and he like hands it to me. And I'm like, all right, well, cool. I'm just going to do my closer and I'm going to get out of here. And after this just brutal set, you know, this terribly challenging set. And so I get about a third of the way through my closer, and then the fucking Australians show up. It was like fucking Chekhov's gun, and so these drunk Australians are now walking past the venue. There's nothing separating like the walkway from the venue. It's just this like steel, rail, and they're just I can't even understand what they're saying. They're so drunk and Australian, and so then now I'm battling these Australian hecklers, and I think, what did I say? I said something like if you've ever seen the movie Red Dawn, this is like the gayest version of the movie Red Dawn. And that got a big laugh. And I was like, I have nothing else I can say that's funnier than that. I'm getting off this fucking stage. So I don't know. I got a lot of love from the audience afterwards. But at the same time, too, I was like, this was a nightmare set. This was brutal. And then I did this on top of doing all our normal weekly shows. I did this show in downtown Fresno that was just a weird bit of Fresno history. We used to have this place called the Fulton Mall. I mean, I guess we still have it, but it was like open in the 60s, and it was like the largest and I think the first open air mall in the United States. And it was a big crowning achievement for Fresno. There's actually a really good episode of the podcast 99% Invisible, where they talk about Fresno's relationship to not just shopping malls, but credit cards. We were like the first ever test market for credit cards from Bank of America back in like the late 50s, early 60s. So anyway, there was this large open air mall that they paved over this street called Fulton in downtown Fresno, made it this big walking mall, and like urban squalor set in over the next 50 or so years, and Fresno just kind of slowly creeped north, and the Fulton Mall, downtown Fresno, kind of fell into disrepair. And they've had this big downtown revitalization thing going on in downtown Fresno over the last couple of years. And one of the things they did was they actually made Fulton a street again. It's now a street. It's no longer like a walkway. And I got booked to do this show at this. It was the weirdest. It was the weirdest venue because it's a kebab place, but it's like got this like kind of a Mexican food flair to it. I don't know. It was a cool venue, and the audience was really, really fun. But I don't think what the producer didn't realize, and I don't think what anybody really realized, was it was like a cruise night. I don't know if you're familiar with cruise culture. I think it's kind of a California thing. I'm not sure, but it's when everybody drives their cars real low and slow down the street with their stereos blasting, and like I said, very California thing. And this was a cruise night on Fulton. So there's all these like street vendors. It was like sort of like a sanctioned thing. It wasn't, cruising is illegal in some parts of Fresno. But this seemed like it was a sanctioned thing because it had a very clear start time and a very clear end time. There's all these food vendors. But at one point, this venue is set up so the stage is right at the front of the venue, and there's this glass, there's this window looking out onto the street, and they just put a curtain in front of the window for the comedy show. And this guy just parks right outside the venue and is just blasting his stereo. And I'm up on stage. I'm like, this glass is all gonna break. And as I'm on stage, I'm gonna get my head cut off on stage. And I don't know. It was. It was just a weird set of circumstances to be like having a comedy show, but it was really fun. I had a great time doing it. Abby's in Disneyland right now. Her mom and stepdad took her to Disneyland. She's really excited about the new Star Wars land. She's going to be going to that, so maybe I'll have her on next week to report back on that. I know we talked to her last week about summer camp, but her summer's kind of winding down right now, so maybe I'll have her on one more time. She really likes being on there. She really likes that I have the podcast up on YouTube now, and she'll be like, Dad, I went through and I liked all the episodes of Sad Dad on YouTube that I'm on. She's like, Dad, I'm your first subscriber. I'm like, all right, cool. She just thinks it's the coolest thing that we're all up on YouTube now, you guys. So, all right. Well, cool. Enough of that rambly mess that I just dropped on you guys. I have a great episode today with a very talented comedian named Laura Crawford. This is it gets real on this episode. Laura is very open and honest about a lot of things. We talk a lot about mental health in this episode, which is, a topic that's, kind of near and dear to me. A lot of that in my family. I have a bipolar older brother and a younger brother I lost to suicide. And so it's all stuff that, really kind of resonates with me, and she has a kind of a different set of her own struggles, and we talk a lot about that. And she was just very, very real with me. I mean, she's dealt with a lot of stuff with herself and with her family that I've been very fortunate that I haven't had to, and I really just appreciated her kind of taking the time to talk about a lot of that stuff and how it relates. We have fun too. I know I'm making it sound like it's kind of a downer episode, but she's very real in a way that I think maybe the last time it got like the last episode that was similar to this one in terms of the tone, maybe like Kelsey Lane a while back. We talked about some pretty heavy stuff then. So yeah, it's a good episode, and Laura's really funny, really charming, and we talk about, she started comedy out on the East Coast, which is a very different experience from being out here on the West Coast. We get into all that too. So cool, guys. Without further ado, let's just jump into this thing, huh? Here we go, Laura Crawford. Right.
But, yeah, everything else is shit.
You want to sit there? You want to sit here? Yeah.
But everything else is just like, ugh, I feel just like, well, no, I do like the dry heat. It's much better.
Yeah.
And there's no bugs.
There's fewer bugs here than there?
Yeah, there's like no fucking mosquitoes here.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's no standing water.
Sure, yeah, it just fucking evaporates.
Yeah, so mosquitoes aren't breeding in it the way that they would.
Yeah.
I'll get used to this. Did you ever see this trick?
Oh, that's a good trick.
This is how far the mic should be from your mouth?
Yeah, that's good.
This is good. This is perfect. See?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can, yeah.
Usually, I mean, depending on how loud someone is. Or
yeah. Sometimes I'll tweak it. Sometimes I'll tweak it mid-cast, mid-podcast.
This is sensitive.
With the mic or the...
No, just...
Oh, yeah. I'll pick up stuff.
I'm not clicking and clanking all over the place. Clickety, click, clack.
Yeah. Okay, we had you up. What was that? That was like a year ago,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. It was basically a year ago.
Was that the first time you'd been to Fresno? Or had you ever come up before for anything?
Yeah, I think no, not to this. I think the furthest I had been north was like Santa Paula.
Okay. I don't even know where that is.
It's near like Ventura.
Okay.
I had not been very far north.
Wow.
I had not. Well, I'd been to San Francisco, but in terms of in between the two, the bumpers.
Sure. Yeah.
Sort of urban bumpers
halfway
of California.
Through. What are your thoughts on Fresno?
Well, I had seen it a bit driving through. It's one of those things where you're just like.
Kind of sad.
I'm sorry, guys.
I haven't taken you to any of the cool parts. There are cool parts of Fresno.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there are. I mean, I've driven through the country a few times.
Yeah.
So it's not too unlike...
You got to see our cows.
Texas, yeah. It is the Texas of California.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's where we're at. Yeah. That's great.
I'm wondering if I can get this in a position where I can also put my glasses on, because sometimes it like smashes against my head.
Sure.
Are we recording?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I didn't even know. I
just ease you into it. It's just
like, dude, I've been steel boot kicking these Jews up and down your streets. What? We're recording? Oh my God. Dude, people are going to think I wear steel-toed boots. I wear pumps. I'm no lesbian.
No, you're fine. You didn't say anything bad. I mean, you spritzed yourself a bunch.
Was that on?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is like candid camera, Big Brother.
It's fun. I feel like it adds to the authenticity.
Yeah. It's
just easing everybody into they get to know the off-air Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So
Cold open.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's neat. And you braved life and limb to get here yesterday. That was a harrowing tale getting up here. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah, I was good. I was thinking, I was contacting people to see if they were gonna drive, and then I'm like, I'm gonna drive, and then I jerry-rigged my mirror back together.
I saw it.
And
it's pretty
did
intense.
that. I was like, okay, it's done. And then my body's just like, you're gonna feel sick for like an hour because you have to go do something. And that's often a thing where my stomach and brain are not in agreement about where they want me to be.
Yeah, you were saying until you get kind of you were saying you get like transitional anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, It also happened, my ex-boyfriend, Sean, who is autistic, he had a thing where he was just also like, yeah, first hour of the day, basically every day, I need the bathroom open.
Oh,
because I don't know when I'm just going to have to, like, run to the bathroom. It's not colitis. People at home are like, that sounds like you have, like, irritable bowel. It's not that. It's just, like, waking up, transitioning from thing to thing. So, like, waking up creates a lot of anxiety. And a lot of it manifests in your gut.
Yeah.
Crap like that. And then so it's just like, moving from like one thing to another. Often if I have to go do something like a job or a show, like immediately from it, it's just like, oh no, blah.
Have you had that like your whole life, or is that just
yeah. It's
That's
not
rough.
fun. No, it's just sometimes it's more manageable than others, but yeah, it's often just a form of anxiety panic. And I have obsessive compulsive disorder, so
do you really?
leaving the house is always a blast.
Is it like self-diagnosed OCD, or is it like no, it's like it's just OCD.
I'm nominal on how delicious
OCD.
it is. My obsessive compulsive disorder. I first got diagnosed as having obsessive compulsive disorder by a clinician when I was 25,
Wow.
24, I want to say. So I'm 32 now. But I had shown major signs of it since I was 7 or 8 years old.
Really? How does it manifest?
Different
like,
stuff. Well, there's what they call a classic OCD, which is typically what people are used to seeing, which is your obsessive behavior surrounding things like germs or counting numbers, touching things. For me personally, OCD has, my form of it has evolved over the years and taken different forms and different shapes.
It's
which
like
is
a Pokemon, yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's very much so. It's more like one of those, I usually think of one of those horror movies where like, it's evolving, it's learning. It's testing the cages.
It's going to find different ways to make my life awful.
Yeah. I mean, as a child, I definitely had a picking condition of picking apart materials and things and breaking them and putting them into small pieces obsessively. And then that kind of morphed into... when I was a teenager, a lot of food behavior stuff related to eating disorders, which are kind of like a form of obsessive compulsive disorder in their own. And that for many years with skin picking, hair pulling compulsions. When I finally went into therapy, it was because skin picking and hair pulling was just like that was getting kind of out of control in terms of being very physically damaging.
Yeah.
But then also I've had obsessions with numbers. Sometimes people will be like, well, like, what's the number thing? And I'm like, yeah, I just like to think and count in series of 4s and 10s and 8s sometimes, or just, snapping, counting. And then I've also had the thing of cleaning. But I'm definitely more compulsive than obsessive.
Sure. Does it weird, like, in a situation where, like, the OCD is causing you to, like, basically harm your body, does that, like, is there, like, a weird overlap into, like, self-harm? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where you're almost getting a satisfaction out of hurting yourself? Like, does that...
Yes, it is. The thing, some part of skin picking and hair pulling, yes, it is definitely a self-destructive thing. It's also a cycle of anxiety that you're putting yourself into, which I think is similar, which is you are at such a heightened point of anxiety and, panic that it's like ratcheted up to a 10. And then you're used to having that compulsive act or that act of self-harm as a release valve. Of that anxiety, so you can just focus on that. Yeah, it's kind of like if you imagine if you had a popcorn kernel stuck in your teeth or like a raspberry seed stuck in your teeth. It is that feeling, but transferred to just like a random area of your body where you like want to take more layers of skin off, or you're trying to fix something, and it's like not going right, and you're just making it worse and worse and worse.
Right.
So it's a bit like that. Yeah, it's very close.
That's rough. Is it? And what kind of, I mean...
You can take medications, and you can do exposure therapy, and I've been in group therapy for it, and currently I'm on medications for it, which is good and helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting one.
You mentioned it a little bit ago, but you grew up on the East Coast?
Yes, I grew up in the North Shore of Massachusetts, in a town called Wilmington, Mass, which is about an hour north of Boston.
Okay.
Like 40 minutes.
Tell me about that. What's that place like?
It is a small bedroom community in northeastern Massachusetts. It's interesting because it's next to a lot of comedy people from Massachusetts, like Pete Holmes, and I was just like, so many.
So many.
Don't name any of them. None. Don't name any. Eugene Merman. So basically, Eugene Merman and Pete Holmes are from Lexington, Mass, which is maybe 15 minutes from where I live. And then Amy Poehler's from Burlington, which is like a town over.
Isn't Bill Burr from Isn't Bill Burr from Massachusetts?
Yeah, I think he's from closer to Boston. But in terms of those suburbs, those people are kind of like from the towns that are right next to mine.
I see. Yeah.
So it's a lot of people their parents work for Raytheon. It's fairly middle class, working class, not like, the factory shut down and then no one had a job. But like the richest kid in my school's dad was a dentist. So it's not, no one's like, driving a BMW. But, it's a nice place.
And what kind of kid are you growing up? Are you like
what do you imagine?
Yeah. I don't know. I picture you being like just like the weird eccentric kid that was maybe she always had a lot of glitter and like her, and then she was always just kind of working on something silly, like some silly piece of art, and but you're also like, I don't know,
interesting.
I don't know, like you were weird, but like not like to the point that it was distracting. But that's
oh no, I was. That's no. I'm the youngest of 3.
Okay.
So I have an older brother, older sister. Older sister is about 3.5 years older. Older brother is about 1.5 years older than me. Not quite 2 years older than me. But as a kid, I very much I stayed at home a lot. I didn't like a lot of outside experiences early on, especially just very close to just like my sister and to less extent my mom and dad. But no, I would say I wasn't a very loud kid because my brother and sister were extremely loud and rambunctious.
Yeah. And
if you watch home movies, it's like they're being insane. They're like, Laura, what are you doing? And I'm like, hey, I'm over here. I have a book. So yeah, I was a fairly quiet child, especially to other people that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But once you knew me, I would talk, at length around, little professor kind of just like long rants about things that were interesting to me. Tomboyish, dressed very plain. I didn't really like that. I liked, just like wearing some overalls and a t-shirt and cut my hair off. But I didn't have a lot of friends. No, not at all. I would kind of just read by myself at recess.
Were you kind of like in your own head, in your own imagination type of thing?
Yeah. Plus, people didn't like me.
Oh, no?
Yeah. Plus, no one wanted to be my friend.
Why didn't people like you?
I was weird. No, I would just always have it be a thing that if people were to ask me what I was thinking about or what was making me laugh, because I always laugh at my own jokes or just things I think of make me laugh.
Yeah.
I tell them and they'd be like, "Oh, that's weird."
Yeah,
and I'd be
like, a weird thing to be laughing about.
Yeah,
yourself.
well, it's like, well, you asked. I didn't when you asked me to tell you what was going on. I didn't give any sort of entertainment disclaimer. Rather, I wasn't like, yes, and this will be great. I just,
Were you and your siblings?
I'm sorry.
You guys,
sort of. Yeah, no. We close? Close to get along. No, I mean,
you do a funny bit about your sister.
Yeah, I'm sure her being very insensitive. Growing up, my parents weren't very good at regulating what we were doing. And what I mostly remember spending a lot of time with my brother and sister being very close with them, but also them being very violent and very prone to anger, and if they were to get bored or whatever, a lot of the time the answer to that would be to torture me or basically from maybe second grade through like fourth grade, my sister locked me in a closet every day.
Oh, jeez.
We're in a basement.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Just to be mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Because she could. No, and so it's bad. To an extent of that, I mean, my dad is the only member of my family who's never punched me in the face directly.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Were you guys like latchkey kids? Like, how was your sister getting away with this stuff?
No. Well, my mom worked a few days, and then both my parents, and looking back on it, have said that they just felt like the best course of action was to just let us figure it out ourselves and to like not intervene. And I'm like, but that's insane.
Yeah.
She pushed me into a full length mirror that broke, and it's like, God. She's 3.5 years older than me. Yeah. He's 1.5 years older than me. Right. They're both taller and way more than I do. Right. And they both have ADD. Yeah,
because you're a relatively petite person even as an adult.
Yes, yeah. And they're still way bigger than me. It's like, so I asked them as adults, I'm like, why did you think that was, one, good, two, possible?
Yeah.
It's just like, that's ridiculous to be like, well, we thought that a good system of parenting was just to do nothing.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, we've tried nothing. We tried nothing. We tried, nothing over and over again, and it doesn't work. And it's like, Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were definitely like I was really close to my sister. Was like she was very affectionate, but it was kind of like being in an abusive marriage.
Sure.
Where she would write property of Allison on me.
Oh my
she
God.
She regarded me as her property.
That's
and she was like, "You're not allowed to like be out of my sight." If we were in public, she would want to hold my hand because she didn't want other people. The thought of other people taking me away from her.
Whoa.
She still thinks of it like for a very long time, even for adults, she'd be like, "Yeah, well, you're like my best friend," and I'm like, "I'm afraid of you." Into adulthood, I would have boyfriends who'd be like, "You like flinch when people go to hug you," and I'm like, "Yeah," because it would be like getting hugged and then smacked in the head. Like,
jeez.
It's not fun.
That's wild.
We had a crazy house. I remember one of the games my sister liked to play was called hockey. It's when I would be just in the house anywhere and she would run out of nowhere and smash me into a wall.
God.
Full body force check me into a wall.
Gee.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Not very fun. But, I was I got to do music lessons as a kid. My parents were big on that and sports and activities. And
what kind of musician are you or were you? I
started to play saxophone when I was 8.
Hey.
And then I played till about 16 and played alto sax and took private lessons. During that time, pretty quick progressions. At that time, I was about 12. I was playing kind of at an adult level of playing, they would say, which is, like I've kind of learned everything you can learn on alto sax. And, we're getting into music theory and different stuff to do with higher level jazz compositions.
Yeah.
And we get paid to play, like parades and some youth orchestra stuff. But I wasn't really too keen on getting into higher level music theory. I'm not it's funny to say I'm not a performer. But
says the comedian, I'm not a performer.
I'm not a performer. Like, look at me, clownish. I'm not a natural ham in that sense. I guess it is. I like making things.
Yeah.
And I do like showing them off sometimes, but it very much depends what it is. Right. Different mediums. So with music, I never wanted to play in front of people. I kind of only wanted to play in front of my teacher and play for myself. Right. I was never like, look what I can do.
Fucking bitchin' ass alto sax solo, and he's fucking shredding faces and melting faces.
I just wanted to do it well. Like I never wanted to. I was never big on wanting to play for people, but I would be forced to play for people. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Talking about dad stories and stuff. And I do remember being confused talking to my dad about this as an adult. I'm like, you would make me play music for strangers and I would be crying telling you that I didn't want to do it. Wow. And you would force me to. I was like, I don't understand the mentality of a human being who can have their own child crying in front of them, telling them they don't want to do something. Yeah. And for no reason other than you think it's a good developmental experience. You're like, no, well, you will do it. It's like, I really don't get any sort of explanation for a lot of these things. Right. They don't make sense.
Sometimes, you look back and you're like, that was a real misstep for him as a dad. You're like, they really kind of whiffed that dad moment.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, that happened more than once. Where I'd be like, tear streaming at me and be like, I don't want to do this. And it's also like, I don't think an audience full of people want to watch a child who's clearly just been crying play music for them. It's not very charming.
Nobody's enjoying it. Yeah. I remember this was just a few years ago. I had one of those like bad dad moments where I was over at my folks' house and I had my daughter Abby and we were leaving. I was like, all right, Abby, give your grandpa a hug. She's like, no, I don't really want to. I was like, no, you give your grandpa a hug. Like, he got you this thing. Like, it's a nice thing to do. And she's like, no, I don't really want to hug him. And I was like, go hug your grandfather. And she's like, I don't really want to. And I was like, hug your grandpa. And my dad's like, it's fine. Like, if she doesn't want to hug me, she doesn't have to hug me. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you get over there right now and you hug your grandfather. And then she's crying. And then my dad's upset, so my dad's crying. It's like this colossal asshole.
It's a new thing with parents, though, is there's a kind of a changing philosophy about whether you should make your kids hug people or not. Exactly, or if that is somehow priming them to think that they should be sexually abused.
Like I said, I did not handle the situation well at all. And upon reflecting it, I don't think I would ever be that way again. As it sounded like a thing a grown-up would say when I was a kid, and I was like, this is how grown-ups talk, so I'm going to talk like that because I'm a grown-up now. And yeah, anyway, so
not as much analysis maybe, but my dad was very supportive of me. I started doing theater when I was like 9 or so, and then I would do community theater, do plays. My dad would drive me to auditions. He's very just like, yeah, you can do this. You have talent. You should, pursue that and focus on that. I guess the issue with my parents, one of the things that I found strange about them was the feeling that they were very sold on this thing of me being talented and smart. Yeah. So like that's all they focused on, and because I didn't have a lot of other very obvious, like, help me. Like, I didn't want to be helped or I didn't want to be cared for as a kid. And they just kind of, like, let that slide. And I felt like they were like, oh, these other two kids are a lot of work. And this one's like a breeze. So we don't have to dive into it. We don't have to question anything that she's doing or and analyze it too much because she seems rather self-sufficient. She seems to be very good at these things. So we're just going to kind of, push that. I'm not going to worry about anything else. And so that's not a very good...
Sure. Yeah. Because, it feels like the wrong people were hands-on with you. Like, your older sister was hands-on. When it really should have been your parents that were hands-on. Who were... Yeah.
Well, she was just more like... It was just clearly more a relationship that my parents obviously should have taken steps to correct how fucked up it was. And they didn't. And with my parents, it was just like... I never had a thing with my parents where I felt that they were perfect. People have this hero worship thing with their parents. Never got that. Never had it. My parents were always super obvious. It's like, why is dad crying? Or like, why is mom crying? Or like, they would always talk about their fucked up childhoods. And my dad had an eating disorder when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Which was intense and a lot. And strange, yeah.
And in the midst of all this madness, where does the comedy come in? Like where are you?
Where does it get funny, Laura? Well, I just said somebody.
I'm just curious. Like, growing up, are you like a comedy nerd? You mentioned acting, you were into.
Yeah, I was a comedy nerd. I was very like I mentioned, just a media hound, and then I just watched endless amounts of TV. And I think we went over that you and I are same birthday year.
Yeah, we're both born in '86. Yeah.
So people really forget that Comedy Central before Chappelle's Show and before Mind MNC and even before South Park, Comedy Central was a network that played a lot of stand-up. Yeah, they did. A ton of stand-up.
They actually did.
And weird movies from the 80s and Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Kids in the Hall. Uh-huh. So growing up, not to say that I came of age in a golden age of comedy, but it was very much a golden age of people recycling 1980s, early 90s stand-up stuff.
It's like
was still being cycled through.
Right. It's like back when MTV still played music videos. Right. That was kind of where Comedy Central was at. Yeah.
Yes, they were in their MTV Actually Plays Videos phase. Not to say that Comedy Central doesn't show stand-up now. They do, but it's not the same as it was then. And it wasn't just so much content. So you had shows that would watch like Premium Blend. What was that comics? Oh, God. It was like... They had a comic show where there was animation, and it was like supposed to be like really dirty, like freak show or
shoot, I know the one you're talking about. I
remember specifically there was an episode of Jim Brewer on that and talking about drinking and your stomach's like a party.
What was that series? I know
I'll look it up. I'll find it later. Yeah. So there was shows like that. There was a Premium Blend that Comedy Central presents. There was, Night at the Improv stuff would play all the time, but there was a lot of,
and so you're just
stand-up shows.
You're just taking that in.
Watched a ton of stand-up, and I don't necessarily think that I was like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. Yeah. Until I got to be maybe like a teenager, but I watched a ton of comedy all the time. Just hours of it, and I liked acting, so it was like I think if you were to track it more when I was a little kid. There was probably more an indication that I would have been into improv, probably, or acting.
It makes sense to. Not to like psychoanalyze you in any way, but like in a lot of ways you were like kind of like the bottom of this totem pole, and you had like it felt like you had like a lot of people that were kind of like taking power away from you, and it seems like in a performance thing though, like you can be somebody with power. You can be whoever you want to be, you know. And and I could see where, like, if you're like the lonely youngest child, like, performance is a great outlet for you because you can be anybody you want to be, you know. And so yeah, I could see where that would, you know.
Yeah, it is actually. I remember pointing back to exactly where it sort of occurred to me that comedy has power. What that means, that to be funny is to be powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it would be an example of something like The Simpsons or like In Living Color or something. You know, I watch those shows, and a lot of times people on them are behaving in ways that are obviously against the rules, against society, you know, taboo and whatever. So, but they get away with it and they can do it and people enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or it's like you could do an impression of someone and you could say something during that impression that if you were to say it in your own voice, you would get yelled at or you would get punished. But you have that, you know, sort of, dominating the conversation. Yeah, it's also a thing of like, just the power of the monologue.
Yeah,
you know?
where you're just commanding the stage and you're commanding the audience. And yeah, that makes sense. And so you were telling me that you actually took a class for like it was a college course in stand-up comedy. That's so cool. Yeah,
there's a couple of colleges now, I believe, that offer more things to do with comedy or to be a stand-up or comedy writing thing. A comic I know in Toronto, Dawn Whitwell, is a college professor. I forgot what school though, but she teaches stand-up comedy course in college. There's obviously, you know, most improv theaters and stuff offer courses, but I was at Emerson College and I believe it was my junior year. Yeah, I believe it was junior year because I was like 21, like I could get into the place in the first of November. So it took a semester-long stand-up class with Mike Bent, who is a comedian. He's done a lot of stuff like Star Search and stuff like that when he was younger, but he does teach stand-up. He teaches like TV writing, and he's an incredible magician.
Oh, really?
Incredible. Like, I had seen a bit of his stand-up, and I was not like bowled over by it. It was just very 80s stand-up, and I was like, okay, whatever. Saw his magic, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He's been to the White House and done the Easter egg roll, like entertainment thing for many years.
That's
for
great.
The Easter egg hunts and stuff. Like, as a magician, it's like, it was so funny and so entertaining and incredible. So, so I took his course, and as part of that, you got to do a show at a comedy club as your final or whatever it is. And so I did that and got to meet the people who ran that place. And then I was just picking and pecking around the internet to find out where people did open mics. And I think I ended up getting a lot more info for like music open mics.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And where are you at this point? Are you still
in Boston?
You're in Boston at this point?
Yeah, I've moved. I started Emerson College in Boston. And so I moved to there when I was about 18. And then from, I believe, about like 20 to 26, I lived in Cambridge.
Okay.
And different areas of Cambridge, but always specifically there, not Boston. The geography of Boston is such that there's the Charles River, which is like the main river that, you know, separates Boston from Cambridge. And so in Cambridge side is where you have Harvard and MIT. It's basically along the subway line. Each stop hits a major college. So once you get, so it's like Mass General Hospital is on one side in Boston, then there's a bridge, and then when you get over there, then it's MIT, and then the next stop is Harvard, and then next stop is like Tufts, basically, or like Lesley College and then Tufts. So things are sort of divided up, kind of like the colleges sort of hubs of activity and commerce and everything, because, you know, obviously they employ tons of people, they have lots of other buildings. So things are very much, you know, revolving sort of around that. But I didn't have a car. I rode a bike. Rode a bike to all my to a lot of shows. I took the subway, you know, took the bus. I have some friends who drive out of
grinding
town.
it out in the open mic scene. Is that what you're doing? Yeah.
But as terms of lifestyle of a city, of differences from LA, never ate like fast food. Not to say I ate healthy, but like there just wasn't anything like. The city wouldn't allow them to zone to have like a McDonald's was like nowhere nearby. There was there was one, but it's like you like never went to it because it was like just junkies. The Wendy's that was there transitioned to like a Qdoba or something, and then it was just like they got out the Taco Bell. But like for that whole huge area, millions of people, There's like no fast food.
Yeah.
I'm riding a bike everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you live near communist bookstores, and like just your view of life is different when you're living in, you know, a more not wholesome, but it's just a different lifestyle. Versus LA, you know, I had to learn how to drive again. I had to get a car.
Right,
you know, drive
that's
around.
a whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just nonstop fast food, and you know, like you're not walking places. You have that driver's view of everything.
Yeah, it's impossible. And then there's traffic, and I mean, it sounds like you miss it a little bit. You miss.
Yeah, the lifestyle is nice to an extent. It's cool, but it's but that's kind of only is like 3 months out of the year.
Sure,
I would ever want to live there.
Yeah,
again.
the rest is all snow. Yeah. Was that what it is? The snow? Yeah.
It's the snow, it's the ice, it's the really unpredictable weather. I kind of forgot how horrible ice is.
Yeah. You have a very scary looking like brush scraper thing in the backseat of your car.
Yeah.
Looks like a giant toothbrush with like a blade on it.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's that thing that I would forget. Once I moved to LA, I kind of forgot, and then I moved to Washington for a brief time, and it snowed there, and I was like, oh yeah, digging your car out every day.
Yeah, that's
holy crap, I hate this.
Yeah. And so you're building
tunneling in and out. You're
building your time up in while you're in Boston. And at what point do you decide to make the transition to Los Angeles? Like, what do you like? What brings you out to the West Coast?
I had mentally sort of reached a point. I don't think it was true that I needed to transition to a bigger city. I don't think that's true. I think I just kind of felt that at the time.
Sure.
Boston is also not. It's not like a happening young person city. Not to shit on it too much, but it's rather small, and the nightlife exists to such a degree that, you're kind of bound by what you can do about, laws around alcohol and zoning, licensing, whatever, nightlife stuff. So you are in comedy it's a good city to learn comedy because, it's great to learn the writing style of that, and there's a lot of amazing comedians there, but it's not the best city to be seen in. You don't get as many opportunities as you would other places.
Right. It seems like one of those scenes too. It kind of happens. It happens a little in Fresno too, but it seems like one of those smaller scenes where like you've got like 5 or 6 headliners that headline every show. Yeah. Like you just hit the ceiling really quickly.
Well, the timeline on that worked out not in my favor also, which is like the year that I moved, everybody above me also moved. So if I had stayed, I would have been in a much more prime position to benefit from that.
Right.
But I was just in a point where, my personal life too, where it was like, yeah, if you're like in your mid-20s or something, you're not in college.
Right.
You're not an undergrad anymore. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the party scene revolves around that. And for me, like, I got into stand-up a lot because all of my friends had moved out of the city where I lived. You know what I mean? Like, they had finished college, and they were like, okay, bye. And I'm like, but I still live here. I have a job. And so it was a way to meet new people and everything. And, because if you're not in an undergrad, or you're not a grad student, or you don't work for a college, or you don't work for a hospital, your lifestyle is, you're just sort of living a weird lifestyle from everybody else in the city. You're doing your own thing, but everybody else is on their own different track, and that's what their hours are, and that's how they live. And you're trying to meet people or date or have friends, and they're just like, it's just a different lifestyle, and you're like, I feel like I'm getting old before I'm old.
And then you're like, I'm moving to Los Angeles. Is that what happened?
No, it was, so I had it in my mind considering which city I wanted, if I wanted to do LA or New York were the main contenders, obviously. But New York real estate, so scary how expensive it is. Yeah. And I visited LA before I moved there, just because I never been.
Right.
I was like, if I want to move to a place, I should see what it's like.
Yeah.
And like I had a couple of people who I knew out here, and then I met a guy that I really liked, which of course that always pushes things over the edge too, And we kind of were like talking long distance for like a few months, maybe 3 months. And we met up in Chicago again. It went well, trip went well, it was cool. So he was like, so if you're gonna move here, he's like, you can just live with me.
Nice. Yeah. Sweet. And you're like, let's just fucking do it.
I would like to live with you
I'm going to live with this guy for free that I've known for 3 months.
That's normal. That lasted about a year.
Hey, a year of no rent in Los Angeles, that's a win, sister. You did it.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I really did like him a lot, and we had a great time, but it was So that was very compelling, obviously, to be like, yeah, I want to be in a relationship with this person, and I want to be close to them, and I want to live where they live, and I want to live here too for myself. But also, I think thinking about New York, I was like, not to say that it would be more of the same, because it is very different, but it would be living in a city sort of with a very similar type of people.
Sure, okay,
You know? And I just felt like any issues that I had with anxiety or depression were gonna be blown up, huge.
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna just expand based on, just career pressures of living in the city, the anxiety of the people, the noise, that congestion, the no sun, barely any trees. Like, you have to really travel to go to a park to be involved in nature and anything like that. So from a therapeutic level, I was like, I feel like I would just become a drunk whore. Also, where it's like, it is also so easy to be irresponsible there because you're not driving.
Right.
And, drinking is sort of like people are drinking like all the time.
Right. Because we're all just going to hop on the subway or catch
you do a show drunk. It doesn't matter. You do another one later.
Right,
and, everyone's drinking all the time. And, you can just fuck somebody and then, you meet another person 2 seconds later or whatever. So with that, I was like, I feel like my likelihood of getting more heavily invested in more bad behavior. I know it probably sounds weird to be compared to LA. To be like, I want to live a clean lifestyle. But I think there is somewhat of an argument for that.
And I mean, one ththing I do like about LA is there's like a diversity from region to region within LA. Like Silver Lake's nice. Like, like the east side is nice. Like there are some like nice parts of LA. Like there's some really not parts. But like I really can't stand being in like Hollywood or North Hollywood. Like it's just that's the worst. But you get to like certain parts of LA and it's not bad.
Well, if you want to develop really healthy habits, you're highly encouraged to do that. So for me, it was like I lived within. Even living in Hollywood, which was obviously like really loud, I did live within hiking, was super accessible. I could go hiking every day.
Yeah, go up to the observatory and all that.
Yeah. Or there's like Bronson Canyon where they filmed the Batman opening. So there's Runyon Park. There's Griffith Park. And someone at home was being like, well, there's Central Park, and it's like, that's a flat fucking park.
Right.
It's great. It's huge. It's flat, and there's tons of fucking people in the way. So there's so many great parks, and you can be in like nature, not just like some asshole planted a tree somewhere.
Yeah, this is some nature. You
carve this nature out of nowhere in the city. So the ability to work out, your ability to, if you want to, go to the beach. Like I had a therapist for about a year who lived, whose office was in Hermosa. So it would be like 40 minutes extra, but I would drive out there every Monday, and then afterwards. I do the sessions intense, it's emotional, and you feel just like, all right, relief, and then you get a cup of coffee and go walk in the ocean. And kill yourself. No.
Just keep
walk into the waves.
Just slowly until you disappear and the void takes you. I get it.
But then it's also, you're living in a city with people who are from, much more people from the Midwest, the South, the West, and you do get a much better view of humanity in America.
You do get a crazy slice of a cross section of America living in Los Angeles, because there's very few people that are actually from Los Angeles. Most people ended up there. So
and it's also, it draws more people from obviously like Chicago westward. Living in Massachusetts, it just had very little exposure to people who just are from Idaho. What the fuck happens there?
Tell me all about
There's
that.
people now. You know what I mean? So that very much.
Well, you're Laura Crawford, and this is a podcast called Sad Dad.
Yeah.
I'm
not a dad.
You're not a dad yet. I believe in you. You can do it.
Not that I know of.
But this is a podcast where we talk about talk about dads, and you have a dad. You mentioned him a couple times now.
Yeah.
And tell me about you. Where did your dad grow up?
My dad is named Wayne Edward Crawford, and he was born. He grew up in Woburn, Massachusetts, which is, if you've ever seen or heard of the film A Civil Action with John Travolta. And it's sort of similar to Erin Brockovich, where it is, there's a class action one of the first class action lawsuits against a corporation, and that's in Woburn, and there was dumping of chemicals, I believe, through a company that was connected to tanning industry stuff.
Okay.
So it's in the water. So my dad was growing up. That was my dad's era of growing up, which is in the early 70s and 60s, and kids getting lots of childhood cancers and stuff like that. The point that the woman who's the main plaintiff or whatever, plaintiff, the class action lawsuit, they've named the train station in the town after her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anderson Station.
So this is your dad growing up, and this is
So it's Woburn is like 10% more urban, I would guess, than Wilmington. So it's middle class, working class town. His dad worked in factories and stuff like that, and they had a farm growing up. His mother worked at the hospital as a dietitian, and Woburn just mostly like Irish, Italian people, working class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he part of a big family?
No, he's actually. It's funny because he's not Catholic. He's Protestant. Growing up, they're Irish Protestant, so they're Orange men or whatever they call them.
Okay.
If you know anything about the conflicts between.
Yeah. Is he? Oh, yeah. Would he be in the IRA? Yeah.
No. The Irish Republican Army is Catholic.
Okay, got
it. So the Protestants were the Ulster group or whatever. So they're connected. They want British rule of Northern Ireland.
That's what it is.
In the IRAs, obviously,
Gotcha.
But obviously, my dad has no connection to that whatsoever. Just as a disclaimer, my dad.
So your dad was fighting the IRA?
No.
Well, this went off the rails.
Disclaimer: my father not in any terrorist groups that I know of. But yes, so he grew up Protestant, so he's one of four. So he has his older sister Leslie, Chris, Drew, and him. And his parents, were married, and his dad was kind of your classic alcoholic of drunk on Christmas, not there to open presents with the kids.
Sure.
Yeah, so that very classic drunk.
And what's he? So he's
like going off to the club every day and being drunk, just constantly.
That's just what he does. Where does he fall in that order of siblings? Is he?
My dad is the oldest boy. He's the second oldest. So it's Leslie and then him, and he's the old. Yeah, so he's the oldest.
I got you. And what kind of kid is he? Like grown up? Is he?
From what I gather, my dad did sports like hockey and stuff like that. They live near a pond called Horn Pond.
Yeah.
So he would skate on the pond in the winter, and they do hockey and stuff like that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know about other sports in particular. He wasn't a great student, in his words. He liked cooking. He got into cooking at a really early age, and my uncle claims that falsely that he invented cookies and cream ice cream. He's like, Laura, I never had this before. And I was like, just because you as a child in 1973, whatever the fuck it was, I never had cookies and cream ice cream.
But he claims that your dad invented it?
He's like, no, you invented it. I never seen it before. And I was like, I don't believe that. But I'm glad you do.
I mean,
but I am glad you do. Yeah, they were little
fact.
They're little rapscallions. They're making little movies, Super 8 movies in the backyard of fake Vietnam films, with G.I. Joes. And But yeah, my dad loves pranks. Loves pranks.
Yeah.
He loves pranks. He loves orchestrating pranks. He loves highly developed things. And he's the kind of person who would be like, when his brothers got married, he'd make like a funny video to show at their bachelor party or something.
Yeah.
So very much liked making movies. I like doing that stuff, like watching comedy, whatever. Oh, good example, I guess, of his personality would be, so he was of the age when Saturday Night Live first came out. My dad looked a bit like John Belushi, and his brother Chris looked very much like Dan Aykroyd.
Oh,
so they would do Blues Brothers perform at weddings.
Yeah.
So my dad can be very hammy.
Yeah.
If you have a thing at work where you're like, oh, you want everyone to do karaoke, like he'll do that stuff. But he doesn't drink. Never has. Never done.
Oh, your dad's
drugs.
never drank?
No.
Oh, wow.
Never done drugs. Never drank.
Was it because of the example set by his dad? He was like, I don't really want to be like that. Yeah. Good for him.
And a lot of his, family members.
He's getting high on life. Yeah.
No.
Your dad's not getting high on life?
No. I mean, he had a horrible eating disorder, which was supplementing that, which was filling the role that alcohol would have otherwise filled.
Yeah. Has he talked to you about that, like at length? I mean.
Yeah. To an extent. Well, it was always really obvious that it was going on, but then when I was a teen, maybe like 15, he started going to Overeaters Anonymous, and getting into that program and doing that kind of stuff. And that actually stuck and was really helpful.
Oh, good for him.
And still goes, and does all that stuff. Because my parents, in particular with me, I think they first put me on a diet when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
Which was completely unnecessary because I wasn't overweight.
Right.
And they were just like, well, like we had gone on a vacation and you had gained a bit of weight and we felt like we should like take care of it right away. Okay. And I was like, yeah, but that transcended into them requiring I work out a certain amount of time every day. And then when I was a teenager, my dad would like make me go to the gym with him and like make me work out and sort of like write up workouts and stuff. And then even when because they were concerned, I think my dad had always had some sort of a weight issue and my mom was always very concerned about her weight, but like they wouldn't keep unhealthy stuff in the house to be like nothing that would be really bad. So then when I got to college and I hadn't eaten disorder through that time also. By the time I got to college, I was just so mentally unprepared to be around that much food all the time. And it was very frightening and difficult. But my dad would call me up when I was in college and be like, how much are you eating? What are you eating? How much are you working out? But they were just like very controlling, I think, because they wanted me to be successful. So it really wasn't thing of, we want you to look a certain way. I mean, it could have been, but for them, I think it was very much like, we don't want this to be an issue in your life, you to have a weight problem. So we're gonna just keep hyper control over your weight and your looks so that people like you. Because people don't like fat people. Right. Because that's how they felt about it. They were like, they didn't want to be fat and they hated themselves for being at all.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah. So they were very much just like worried about like, will you succeed in life? Will you succeed with career and, whatever, family, love, whatever it is. So they're just like, it'll be better. Successful people look better. So it was kind of frustrating for me on that end that it would be like, but that's how it is. It's like, I felt like he had a, sort of a harrowing experience with an eating disorder, and I would have thought that it would have transcended into some sort of empathy for my situation, but it really didn't.
No, he kind of went the other way with it.
Yeah. They were just like, this is just how you behave, and it's like, but not really. But so that was going on. So he was basically binge eating a lot, and then exercise purging, or just like total calorie restrictions. So you're talking about like your dad stealing your Halloween candy, or you find him just like binge eating at night, or just like making an entire pan of brownies on a Saturday, eating them all himself and not giving you any.
Wow.
Can you imagine if you did that to your daughter?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Can you imagine if your daughter
these are daddy's brownies.
And she was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm making brownies. And then she's like, oh, can I have some? No, get out of here.
Ooh. Wow.
I mostly also remember him. He worked incredibly hard. He's worked for Sodexo, a large hospitality service sort of company. His job in particular was with hospitals, like Aramark or
Aramark and Cintas and
Cintas.
I used to work for Cintas.
Yes, so Sodexo is very much like that. So he's sort of the person in charge of your food and your maid service, all that stuff. Basically, mostly everything that's not your medical care at a hospital.
Yeah.
So he's the head. Did that and has been doing that for, since I was a little kid for the same company. Just recently retired. So he's working a ton. So when he wasn't working, so he's like a manager, boss, wears a tie, white shirt, tie every day.
Right.
And so when he wasn't working, he was just like mostly sleeping is what I remember from a kid. It's funny, like he's very active now and he has a lot of activities and stuff. But when I was a kid, I really strongly remember him working a ton and then sleeping when he gets home, and then also like sort of being a stage dad-ish, that was where we connected, where he was just very like stage dad about like, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that?
Right.
But he felt like when he was growing up, no one was pushing him to do anything. And so he was resentful because he was like, well, no one encouraged me when I was a kid, or no one cared that, I went to this practice or that rehearsal. So I'm gonna. Yeah,
it seems like a lot of the problematic parenting comes from a place of love, though. It seems like he was trying to make you successful, and trying to have you avoid maybe missteps that he feels like he made. But
both my parents, that's been generally what I've understood is that because they've said things, they've been like, my mom has said, she's like, I always kind of liked it. I don't know if she said liked it particular. she's like, I always thought it was good when you or your brother or sister would lose your soccer games because I wanted you to learn humility. And I was like, how many times do you need to learn that?
Yeah, right.
But she was like that. They were both very much like, I don't think my dad ever told me I was pretty until I was like maybe 25.
Wow. Yeah.
It just would never occur to me that he would say that. But so for them, it was very much just like, we don't want you to be egotistical. We want you to work really hard, and we're really concerned with, you know, your success and, you know, you working hard and, you know, doing what you're supposed to do. But we don't want you to get an ego about it. We don't want you to get a big head. But what that resulted in was having horribly low self-esteem and thinking I'm a piece of shit, you know? And because if something went well, it was like, okay, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And if something goes well, it is, what did you do to fail?
Right.
And yeah, so it's like,
wow,
can't enjoy anything.
Yeah. And I mean, and how did your mom and dad meet? I mean, they seem to really be cut from the same cloth.
They are, yeah. Well, in terms of goals and things that they love, like they're both very Christian. They both were Catholic. My dad transitioned, got confirmed as Catholic when I was a teenager. He converted. They met working at a hospital. So they're both working, I think, in like food service or something. You know, like maybe bringing food trays to people and stuff. So they met there when they were 19 or so, and then they got married when they were like 21.
Wow.
My sister's born when she was 25. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. And then you kids are like stair step. So you
very close in age.
You grew up. I mean, you would.
I did. I grew.
You grew up.
I grew up. 5'4".
I was gonna say
amazing.
I was gonna say so you grew up pretty religious. Is that?
Yeah. My mom is very Catholic, and most of the books that we had in the house were religious oriented books. Went to church every week. My mom was in the choir. So that kind of stuff. Did go to CCD, religious ed. I went to a Catholic school for 1 year. But my dad didn't go to church originally because he was still, in his whole Protestant thing. So it would be funny because we'd be like, why doesn't dad have to go to church? Eventually, once my mom started doing more choir stuff, it would be like he would sit with us in church and he would go. And so he ended up converting. And that seems to be, that has gotten to be a much larger part of their life, the Christian thing of listening to Christian radio stations, going to see religious movies. They don't see movies that are rated R anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. They go to retreats. Special events, all that
Is it
stuff.
like you feel like the kids all left?
Joel Osteen, I don't know.
And the kids all left, and they were like, "Well, I guess this is our thing now." Like,
yeah. I mean, if I had been a shitty parent and I had a lot to make up for, I would probably believe in a religion that said that I was forgiven too. Oh wait,
hey, we are firing hot, folks. I like it. Holy smokes!
Well, if I had been a shit person,
there are literal bullet holes in my wall. Shots have been fired.
I used to jokingly say stage, it doesn't go well, but it would be like, my mom, she's just a real, idiot bitch.
Oh, that's so funny.
So stupid. It's ungrateful. No, I'm very, very lucky to have good parents. I'm very lucky, yes, in the sense that they did promote some activities that were helpful. But it was also weird to me, too, because I haven't really worked this out in my mind so much about it. But when a lot of the stuff came out about Bryan Singer...
Oh, yeah, the director.
And the director and kind of the kids that he was preying on.
Yeah.
It was weird for me because it was like when I was a kid, I was in theater, but the group I was in, and I was like, loved it. It was like so many of my friends and everything outside of school, and I had such a great time doing it. And I loved it so much, and it was where I got most of my friends and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, at that place, when I was 16, I got into a relationship with a man who was in his mid-20s, 27 or something, which was illegal, and he was, majorly taking advantage of me, fucking with my brain.
Yeah.
And then when I was on a camping trip, I got sexually assaulted by another guy in that group. And then I also had, like, male friends of mine who got, like, preyed upon by older dudes in that group. And I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, there's, like, a long trail of bodies associated with this.
Yeah.
And none of us felt like we could say anything because it was, like... when you're, like a young teen, you're like, I guess I'm supposed to go along with this because I don't want to look like I'm a little kid and tattletale or whatever.
Right.
And you just sometimes you're like, well, if I say something, then I won't be able to continue doing this.
Right.
But so sometimes it's really weird when I think back on what a Faustian weirdo bargain that turned out to be. Because it's like, I think about it, it's like my parents with them and whatever. It's obviously they could have had no idea what was going on. But
sure.
Yeah, it's wonderful that they push me into these activities, but at the same time, a lot of the places were, some of the activities eventually did open me up to being like, you know, me and other people getting abused by people, which is fucked up.
Yeah, it is really shitty.
So you're like, oh, was that good? You kind of think back and you're like, what a great thing. And then you're like, but was that good?
Well, it just seems like they would go, like they would take that initial step.
Yeah.
They'd be like, she's doing this thing. Like, look at her do that thing that we signed her up for. Look at us being awesome parents. But she did the thing. And then there was like no follow-up. Like there was like, hey, there was like, hey, how's that thing going? Like, are you still enjoying yourself? Are you getting a lot out of that?
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not there. It's just kind of what it feels like though. It's just like you kind of like threw you into the pool, then just walked away. You know?
Yeah.
Didn't ever check to see if you were drowning.
yeah. They were just so they were very like on top of it, and also, I guess, you know, it's funny to talk about personality traits that you share with your parents or whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with my dad, I see a lot of myself in him in that he can be very disorganized. He can be very anxious. He can be very like self-defeating, you know, and get in his own head and, you know, be very self-critical. Right. And also like work ridiculously hard for other people with very little reward for himself, you know? Like he does a lot of volunteer work. There's a lot of making meals for like homeless people and stuff like that. So he does tons of things like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful things like that. But he's just very much like he'll work himself to death for other people, which I'm like, yeah, I've had those times with projects. But also he's the guy who's like, I'm going to make this dessert or something. And then he's like, oh shit, I forgot this ingredient. Goes to the store. Then comes back, oh shit, I forgot that other thing. Does it like 3 times. And I'm like, that's me. Huh? That's me. Or, you know, so a lot of that kind of like ADD sort of like distracted, procrastinating, kind of, oh shit, am I wearing my seatbelt? You know, kind of right. You know, speeding, you know, your car's got trash in it and stuff. So it's like some of those things I'm like, yeah, that's, you know.
I get that.
But he's so much more, he is probably one of the best people I've ever seen in terms of reading people or when you first meet people, and people really love him really immediately. And I was thinking about that so much of, you know, his employees, you know, have all like, they've all invited him to their weddings, and, you know, I would go to his workplaces and people come up to me and like really sincerely be like, I love your father so much.
Man. Is that frustrating on like a certain
level?
No,
I do. I mean, I love him too. And it also, he became much easier to like as a person as I got older. At the time I was maybe 17 or 18, you know, and, you know, also then later moved out of the house. It's like he had gotten a lot of control over, you know, his issues with eating disorder stuff. And he had found a lot of, you know, Christian stuff to be very inspiring and, you know, helpful for, like, working a lot of issues that he had out. Right. And he was also just, like, a lot less angry as a person. Yeah. Because I saw him blow up a lot when I was a kid. And it was just like, I think that's what I kind of meant to put out earlier when I was talking about hero worship with your parents. Like, I saw my parents just, like, lose control a lot. And I was like, I don't trust you because you don't know what you're just always on that emotional edge, it seems like. Ready to flip out. And so it's like, you don't really have a strong base to jump off from. Right. But as a teenager, where it's like, I don't need that type of stability as much, I guess, in a parental role as I may have needed as a kid. Right. So I can kind of like him more objectively as a person. Yeah. But he's amazing at meeting someone and knowing what they want to talk about, knowing what's important to them, charming them, being very gregarious, social, open. I'm not so much as that as he is, but yeah. Oh, okay. So I do love him. Like, he does have wonderful qualities, have great stories about him. It's odd to figure out, is he, you know, you sort of often think, like, you know, you have an absentee father, you have a bad father, a good father. And it's like, he is a good father in that I believe that he did think about parenting. Right. And he did put effort forth. Just his ideas were stupid and his brain was garbage. Right. No. But he was trying.
Well, this is the part of the show where I asked for a dadictote. And I don't know, I mentioned it to you a while back. So do you have like a favorite story you like to tell about your dad?
Sure, I do. I think I mentioned my dad likes pranks and things like that. Yes. Okay, example. When he was a young man, he would drive through McDonald's and be like, hey, you got hot dogs in there? Drive through and they're like, no. He'd be like, all right, I'm going to Burger King. he would prank phone call my mom all the time, and he would play her like recordings from Pulp Fiction where it's like, you know, Samuel L. Jackson cursing something, and she's like, Laura, someone's trying to kill me. She plays this thing. I'm like, that's Dad. She's like, your father doesn't know Samuel L. Jackson. I'm like, no, that's it's a recording from a film.
That's funny.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Okay, so one of my this is a very it's a good anecdote. I don't know what it says.
Yeah.
One of the good things when I was a kid is got to go to my grandparents' house like probably once a month on like a weekend and sleep over like a Friday night or a Saturday night. And my dad's parents in Woburn, and I loved them. Had a great time there, and you know, it's kind of a break from my family life, and got to go there and sort of be spoiled and be the center of attention.
Yeah.
You know, people being really nice to you and letting you do whatever the fuck you want. So it was Sunday. So usually what would happen is, like, you know, we wake up and my aunt would drive me back to my parents' house or something, or my parents would come pick me up, or, you know, I would call them. They'd be like, hey, what are you doing? And sort of check in and figure that out. So I was, I want to say 10 or 11. I don't know. Probably around there. I call up my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad. And he's like, hey, Laura, how you doing? And I'm like, good. And I'm like, he's like, oh, okay, when are you going to be home? Blah, 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 like 11:30 or something. And he goes, okay. He goes, when you enter, he's like, when you arrive home, you have exactly 1 hour. Within that time, you must find me somewhere in the house. If you cannot find me during this hour-long period, you will get no dinner, or something like that. And I'm like, what? And he just hangs up the phone. I'm like, oh my God, he's doing this again. He would periodically just like to prank you or hide things from you. He would hide things from people and stuff like that, where he would change all your radio presets to the classical station, or just move a ceramic bunny to different parts of the house. And, you know, just
did you find him?
So I get home, and I'm just like, hey, Dad, where are you? I'm like, first of all, I'm like, is this a thing that he's gonna recognize that he said?
Sure. Was he just fucking around, or was he being?
Yeah,
serious?
I had to confirm. Are you being serious? Is this really a thing you do? Or am I gonna wake up and or am I gonna walk up and you're gonna be watching me like, what are you doing? I'm just like, I'm not trying to make any call. Shut up.
Right.
Figure out if it's real first. So I, Dad, and I'm like, oh, he is hiding. Oh my God, he is hiding. So I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, I don't see you. I'm like, we're still got 15 minutes, kind of joking and going along with it. And then I look at the fridge, and my dad has horrible handwriting. But there's a note, and it says, clue. I'm like, oh, it's a clue. Good. This is also very amusing to me. I'm acting kind of like a shithead about it, but I did find it funny at the time. But it's clue, and it's like, who did the dog say was the greatest baseball player of all time?
Oh, man. Babe Ruth? I don't know. Who? What? Ruth? Oh, like
Ruth. Roof.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Babe Ruth. Roof. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, roof. That's so funny. He was up on the roof?
Yeah. Yeah. So I walk outside, and I look up, and I see him just serene, laying back with his hands turned, just just looking up at the sun. And I was like, hi. He goes, oh, you made it home. And look at that. Within the hour. Good for you. And I was like, get the fuck down here. I don't swear in front of him, but I was like, get the hell down here. And then he's like, don't tell anyone about this. They'll think I'm weird. I was like, I know you're weird. No one thinks you're weird. People know you're weird.
That's so funny.
You are a weird dude. He would, but yeah, very. I'm clearly my dad really loves me a lot. But I think it's been difficult to express that. You know?
Yeah.
It gets just. I mean, I think it's difficult to like know how to put that out there.
Sure.
It gets easy. I think it does get easier over time.
Yeah.
So I think now that I'm 32.
Yeah.
Now that he's had 32 years to work at it, he's getting kind of better.
Yeah, way to go, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, Laura,
you're getting there, Wayne.
You have been so fun today. If people want more Laura Crawford in their lives, where can they find you on the social media?
Sure, you can look up Crawford Comic is my name on Twitter and Instagram. And then I am the video producer for the Profiles in Eccentricity podcast. So you can find our YouTube page. And I make everything that's on that page.
Yeah,
so you can watch the videos that I've made. Yeah, we have a good time.
I'll link all that. I'll link your handle and I'll link your YouTube channel. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for being on. You were great today.
I had a good time. Thank you.
And we're back. Laura Crawford, she was great, right? Follow her. I'm going to link her YouTube channel in the show notes, so give that a like and subscribe. Do her a favor there. And then if you need to get a hold of me, saddadpodcast@gmail.com. There's a Sad Dad Patreon. If you want to support the show financially, you can like the Sad Dad Facebook page. We can talk about stuff. We can talk about Stranger Things or whatever else you're watching right now. I've been playing this game, Far Cry 5. I haven't had a lot of time to play video games lately, but I've been kind of dabbling in this Far Cry 5 game. I'm not sure who this video game is for. Like, is it just for me? Did they pay $30 million to make a video game for me? I don't think so. But you're this sheriff deputy that gets dropped into a modern day rural Montana to fight a bunch of like fundamentalist doomsday cultists, and you hunt bears, and I don't know. It's got this amazing soundtrack though, because you're fighting this cult, and I looked it up because like you'll kill some of the bad guys and you'll take their car and you'll jump into their car and like their radio is playing, and it's just kind of this like really haunting like folksy choir music. And I like looked it up, and they did kind of a cool thing for this video game where they like in universe they had this like they call it the Hope County Choir, which is the name of the county you're in the video game, and sort of like a la like the People's Temple Choir. They recorded an entire album of like songs by this fake group for this fake cult, and they're like so good. Like I was like, I shouldn't like this album so much, this fake album for this fake cult. Like, why is this a thing? But it's the production value is so good and it's so catchy. So I don't know, that's what I've been listening to. Just video game cult music. What is my life? Cool, guys. Come out to some shows if you're in the greater Fresno Clovis area. 6 nights a week. We're starting up a Sunday show at our kind of our main venue, DeChico's in Old Town Clovis. So we're going to be there starting in August. We're kicking it off with a former Sad Dad guest. August 4th, Kyle Shire is coming out to burn the place down and kick off the new Sunday shows at DeChico's. That'll be August 4th. And then going forward, we're going to be at DeChico's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, Saturday. We've got a killer venue on Wednesdays with Full Circle Olympic in the Tower District. That's super fun, and I've got some fun Sad Dad episodes coming out for you. I've been actually kind of building up the back catalog like I'm supposed to, and so next week I have a real funny, real talented comedian named Stuart Thompson's going to be on. Real smart guy, and again, very different perspective than I'm. He grew up in San Francisco, and we get into all of that. I'm not going to spoil next week's episode for you, but cool. That is it, you guys. You are a ton of fun. I love you to death, and adios.